of course, heading up ProFootballTalk.com, and he's joining us on the Diamond Factory Hotline, and he made me sick and nauseous the other day after the Jalen Hurts deal got done. Oh, look at the... Oh, is this his new intro music, Peyton? There you go. I like it. Little mafia music for the new book. Look at how the Eagles just did this perfectly. Look at how the deal with no headache and no Dak Prescott delay and drama, and props to Philly for getting it done. Good morning, Mike.
But wait a minute. You got a problem with me stating facts?
We don't let facts get in the way of a story here.
It is encouraging to see, and this isn't a slap at the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, and really the Cowboys are the ones who got burned by waiting as long as they did to do the Dak Prescott deal. They ended up paying him $40 million from signing. Jalen Hurts is getting $43.3 million from signing. The Prescott deal far better for Dak than the Hurts deal for him. That's one of the realities of doing a deal while you've still got a guy who's under contract for a year. He's carrying injury risk. He's more likely to say yes if you put that offer, you make that offer he can't refuse, to continue with the theme. The Eagles did it, and he couldn't say no to it. The bigger issue here is Lamar Jackson, because it just shows you that when team and player and agent are intent on getting something done, they can get it done in a way that creates minimal disruption, minimal distraction, minimal headache, and it keeps the team as a whole from not losing sight of the bigger goal of trying to win championships. So kudos to the Eagles for figuring it out. And we still haven't seen the final details yet, because the deal still hasn't been signed. But it's going to be interesting to break it all down and see what it's really worth, because you guys have seen this before.
Yeah.
What it's worth on the surface and what it's worth when you look at the details, it can be two very different stories.
Mike, do you talk to anyone throughout the league who still has major Lamar doubt? Like, we had Mike Martz on the other day. He said he's still taking Dak over Hurts. I know everyone would vote Hurts over Dak right now, all for the 1 year. But what stops Hurts from being the next Lamar Jackson, with other teams obviously not calling Baltimore to try to get this done? Do you talk to anyone who still has major Jalen doubt for the long haul?
No. I think last year the leap we saw puts him up in that category of current franchise quarterbacks. Chris Sims and I have kind of reached a loose consensus on our morning show PFT Live that there are 5, maybe 6 true franchise quarterbacks right now in the NFL, and we would put in that list Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and maybe Trevor Lawrence. And everyone else is on the outside looking in. Lamar Jackson, for now, is on the other side of that line. Dak Prescott, for now, is on the other side of that line. Just the guys that merely having them on the team makes your team a contender, period. And then it's up to you to put the talent around him to get it over the top. But I think Jalen Hurts is there based on what he did last year. And when you look at how he ran the offense, how he's grown as a passer, augmenting that with the running abilities, he's exactly what a team needs to thrive in today's NFL, and he got it done last year. And you throw in the leadership, the personality, he checks every box. How long is it sustainable? I don't know, but it's going pretty well right now. That's why the details of the contract are going to be fascinating. How many years are the Eagles truly committed? When could they tear it up and walk away if he does regress at some point in the coming years?
You know, and obviously we don't have the details like you just mentioned there, but, you know, when we look at some of the generalized details that we know, for instance, $110 million guaranteed at signing, $180 million almost guaranteed overall, which in all likelihood will be like trigger dates and things like that. Like, if you're on the roster the 5th day of this league year, then the following year's salary becomes fully guaranteed. So when you look at that, it sounds like it could be something in the range of basically a 4-year commitment for $180 million, which would be $45 million a year guaranteed. Is that something that we should look at in, regardless of what the reported number would be that says $51 million annually? Is that the kind of financial commitment you think the Cowboys would have to look at for any sort of Dak extension?
Well, here's the issue with Dak, and every one of these contracts is different. It's driven by the circumstances. When this deal was done a couple of years ago, 4 years, $160 million, as straight and as simple as it could be. The way it's set up on the back end, there's a lot of pressure on the Cowboys to get it done. He's entering year 3 of the contract right now, not year 4.
Yeah, and it has 2 void years.
Okay, he's got 2 more years.
That's okay. Jerry didn't know how long he's been in the league for anyway, so.
Well, on the back end, they can't franchise tag him. This thing is set up to void in a way that prevents a franchise tag. He's going to have all the leverage when next year rolls around. That's why there's, I think, some urgency to get it done this year, to get it done now, because once you get through 2023, he's in a position where he can just say, I'll play my last year out, and then there's nothing you can do to force me to stay. You've got no device, no leverage, no tool under the CBA to keep me from going to the market and letting the market determine my value. And that's something we've rarely seen among the quarterbacks who are regarded as quote-unquote good. We saw it with Kirk Cousins, but Lamar Jackson, we're not seeing it because you got to give up 2 first-round picks minimum, even if the Ravens would not match the offer. So Dak is 2 seasons away from becoming a true and clear unrestricted free agent. I think that's one of the reasons why there's a motivation to get this done. Also, when you do these deals, we see low cap numbers early. Well, that means big cap numbers late. And one way you get cap relief is extend that deal and push some of those phony dollars out into future years. And people say, well, why do teams do that? How's it sustainable? Here's the easy answer. The cap keeps going up each and every year. So $1 million in cap space this year means less next year because the cap's going to go up by $20 million. So teams are always looking to kick those dollars into future years.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, joined us here at 105 through the Fan. His book is out April 25th called Father of Mine. Is it important to get it done before Herbert and Burrow? Because obviously their number may jump and leapfrog Jalen Hurts and the risk of having them both be guaranteed.
I think there's always that factor of what do we do? When do we do it? Do we wait? What is our real trigger for this? And you can't let yourself be paralyzed by that. You don't want to be a team that says, well, we definitely want to wait, because it can blow up in your face. Now, this Jalen Hurts deal could end up being something that teams use against Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. And then the question becomes, will the agents for the players say it doesn't matter to us? This doesn't apply to us. And I could see Joe Burrow making that very persuasive case, because the Bengals have made it clear they're going to do whatever they can to keep this guy. I mean, I would be tempted to wait to see what Burrow gets, because I think that the Bengals are probably going to be, of the teams out there looking to pay their current franchise quarterbacks, I think the Bengals are the most likely to give Burrow a friendly deal. And I think there's a chance. And I don't know this. This is just speculation based upon covering the league for as long as I have. I think if anybody's getting a percentage of the salary cap as his compensation, which I think is a very sensible and fair way to do a long-term deal with a quarterback to protect him against the market going up and the cap going up, I think Burrow's the one to do it. Now, I don't think the Cowboys would ever do it, so it doesn't matter to Dak if Joe Burrow gets it. But if he gets it, it's just a little more pressure that can be applied to get whatever Dak's looking for if the Cowboys would draw a line in the sand on giving Dak a percentage of the cap.
Your top 3 NFL draft storylines as of today.
Well, what do the Texans do at number 2? Because I think that's where the draft begins. We now know Bryce Young is going to be the number 1 overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. I think that's a given. Do the Texans take a quarterback? Do they take an edge rusher? Do they trade down? And I think one of the factors we need to consider here is DeMeco Ryans, their head coach, comes from a team that has seen both ends of the quarterback spectrum the last 2 years. 2021, they give up 3 first rounds and a third-round pick to get Trey Lance, and what happens with that? Last year, the last pick in the draft, Brock Purdy, and what happens with that? I think Ryans probably would rather have a transformational pass rusher with the 2nd overall pick. Then Jalen Carter, where does he go? I think the window opens for him at number 5 with the Seahawks. Do they take him? Do they trade down? Does the team try to trade up to get him? And I really do believe his floor is 10. I don't think he'd be at the draft if his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, wasn't 100% sure that Carter is going to go by the time the Eagles pick at number 10. And then just where are the quarterbacks going to land? I feel like as we get closer to the draft, at one point it was like, hey, maybe the first 3 guys are quarterbacks this year. Now it's like, okay, it's Bryce Young, and then when C.J. Stroud go? Does he go 4 to the Colts, or is that Anthony Richardson? Where's Will Levis factor into this? How these quarterbacks play out beyond Bryce Young, it's become murkier as we've gotten closer to the draft. And, at one point I thought 4 would go top 10. Now, I don't know, maybe 2 will go top 10.
Wow.
Do you buy the idea that the Cowboys, and there's been some chatter about this, I know Todd McShay mentioned it yesterday, but do you buy the idea that the Cowboys could be so enamored with Bijan Robinson that they would go up for him?
Well, remember when they were enamored with Darren McFadden, the Arkansas guy, and they got Felix Jones instead that year? They didn't move up. They resisted. Now, it would have been, I think, a pretty strong move because it was 4th overall where McFadden went to the Raiders. But remember how Jerry was so excited about getting the Arkansas great running back? And it was the year after Adrian Peterson, so there was even more of a premium. I think the reality with running backs, teams have learned when you take a running back in the top 10, it really is a major risk because of the injury-prone nature of the position, not the player, but the position. Giants took Saquon Barkley 2nd overall, had a great rookie year, and then what happens? Injuries start. Because of the position, you're in car crashes constantly. You'd rather invest that pick in a position where you've got a greater likelihood that the guy's going to be able to play. So it comes down to how far they'd have to go. And I think there are several teams out there, and I'm a firm believer, when the dust settles next Thursday night, whoever's gotten Bijan Robinson, we're going to look, if it's a playoff contender that gets Bijan Robinson, we're going to look and say, holy crap, that's a Super Bowl contender now. Woo! And I think the Cowboys, if they get him, would fall into that category. You look at other teams that can maybe get him. The Eagles are out there. Wouldn't you guys love that if the Eagles get him with Jalen Hurts? You know, if the Vikings would get in position to get him and then move on from Dalvin Cook, there are plenty of teams where you throw Bijan Robinson onto that offense. You know, people regard him as one of the top 3 players, regardless of position in this draft. It changes everything. And it'd be very fascinating to see how high the Cowboys would go and what they would give up to try to get him, because to the extent that they've got urgency to try to win a Super Bowl, that's the one guy I think that can make the biggest difference for them right away.
Howie Roseman wouldn't be dumb enough to take a running back at 10.
Well,
he might take him.
I don't know. Maybe the Cowboys got to jump to number 9. Wasn't there something like that happened recently? I think it was the Eagles jumped the line in front of the Giants, I think, to get Devontae Smith a couple of years ago when the Giants really, really wanted him. So those divisional feuds can play out as you manage the draft board. But I'm telling you, Robinson is a guy. We're going to be talking about it next Friday morning. The team that has Bijan Robinson, there's going to be a glow, there's going to be a vibe, there's going to be a feeling that team is now a very serious contender to win it all.
The Trey Lance movement, will he be in San Fran? What is the value? What is the compensation for him?
I think that they're inclined to listen, but I think they're going to be stubborn about what they want, just like they were with Jimmy Garoppolo. And at the end of the day, if you have to keep him, so be it. Maybe you placate him a little bit by saying, well, we'll listen to trade offers, but, you know, we're not going to give you away. I mean, look at what they had to do last year. They went from Trey Lance to Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock Purdy to Josh Johnson, right, to Brock Purdy with a busted elbow trying to hand off the football. I mean, they needed their quarterbacks. They've been cursed at the quarterback position. This is the best team in football over the past 5 years at every position but quarterback. And I'm a firm believer, if they had just waited for Kirk Cousins in 2018 free agency like Kyle Shanahan wanted to do instead of trading for Jimmy Garoppolo, they would have won 1, if not 2 Super Bowls by now, not because of Kirk Cousins, but because Kirk Cousins wouldn't have blown it for them. He doesn't miss games. He doesn't get injured. He plays enough between the boundaries of acceptable to run that team. So bottom line, I don't think they're going to find a team that takes him. They gave up 3 ones and a 3 to get him, and I think they're going to be stubborn to save face, and I think he's going to be a 49er this year, barring something unexpected, barring a team out there that's willing to give up a lot more than I think Trey Lance would otherwise get right now.
What happens first? Dan Snyder actually completes the sale, or Aaron Rodgers is a Jet?
Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet next Friday night, as late as the Jets being on the clock with their back-to-back second-round picks. This Dan Snyder thing, I don't know what the hell's going on. You got this Brian Davis who's come out of the blue who gave a long radio interview yesterday on 106.7 The Fan in D.C., and I don't know what I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think, based on everything I've heard, this guy's even got anywhere close to the money necessary to buy the team the way the league requires it. So this Josh Harris thing's moving forward. It's going to take a while still. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet next Friday night at the latest.
Father of Mine out on Tuesday. Give our Tolos a little reset of what the book's about, how they can get it.
Mob novel set in 1973 based on some things I learned growing up. My dad was a bookie connected to the mob in the town where the book is set, small town 60 miles from Pittsburgh. The mob ran the place then. Fictional story, though. No omertas were broken, as I've said before, in the crafting of the book. I hope that keeps me from getting whacked or rubbed out or whatever the term currently is.
Whacked.
And you can get it anywhere that ebooks are available, $4.99. We're working on the print version. And if you go to Amazon, like I can track in real time the pre-orders, so I know whether or not this 15 minutes has been worth my while. So you're on the clock. You got to put. Let's see if you can get people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to plunk down $4.99. You can't buy $4.99 for. You can't buy anything. For $4.99 today. You can buy that today for $4.99, and we'll see how the numbers move.
Bobby, go buy 12 so he comes on next week. 12 of them.
I will. I'll buy 12 right now. I'll buy a dozen.
There you go. A dozen. And you're on next Thursday.
Take the cannoli.
Before round one. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys.